Hey, good morning. This is Stephen Williams, founder and president of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about court summons. I'm getting a lot of questions, and I had just answered one on YouTube here. And it was a very good question. The person obviously had either been watching my videos or they know what they're doing to try to challenge what the debt collection company is trying to do. And what they had stated in there was that they had that the debt collectors coming after them, and the first thing that they did is they made sure that it wasn't past statute of limitations. The charge off date was in 2016, and so it wasn't past statute of limitations for their state for the particular debt. Then the next thing is that it was served, but it wasn't serviced directly to them. And uh, the person said, or I think it's a guy, he said that they just dropped the service at the feet of that doorstep, which the courts, for some reason, depends on where you're at, they will allow that to be a service of something, but there could be a potential problem with them dropping that service at the foot of the door, which is they've shared your private information with someone that you didn't know. So this could probably be something that you might be able to play on when you get into court. And I'm going to also put that answer on the YouTube. That was something that just came to my mind. So what happened is that you said that they dropped the service, the summons at the foot of that person's doorstep and then took off. That could be a violation of your private information. So, but that's just going to be an option that you should look at when you go to court. I just want to put a note so I could put that also on the YouTube just in case you're not watching this video. Now, this is what they do. Let's take this step by step. When a debt collector buys a debt, let's take it from the beginning. What they do is they buy the debt, and then they're gonna go into the credit bureaus of all of the people's debt that they got. They had a little staff go through, and they start looking at potential people that have money. That they want to look at your job situation, which is on your credit reports. Your house, do you own it? Do you have a car? Are you making car payments? Job, all of that stuff is revealed on your credit reports. And not to say all of them do that, because it takes money to do that. Some of them will just throw the letters out there. But when they're buying debt that is not past statute of limitations, debt that they believe that they can collect on, they're going to look through the reports, and then they're going to start putting their strategy together to start going after that money. And so once they see the situation, then they're going to invest money in serving the summons. This is why it's important to respond to this stuff, because once they start spending money, it's like they've also went past the point of no return. Because it just think if they had 1,000 accounts, and in my area to serve 1,000 accounts, they're gonna have to pay $65,000, $75,000 to have those served. And trust me, they just bought the debt, and yeah, they might have bought it for pennies on the dollar, but pennies on the dollars for $2, $3, $4, $5 million worth of debt is still a lot of money. And so they're going to invest that, then they're going to invest to go after the debt with the court summons. And so that's what they're going to do. Now, what you need to do, what you need to be prepared to do when you get a court summons, is that you have to first check statute of limitations. I always talk about that. Every state is different. You need to check your state statute of limitations, and you can go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com, and search in the search bar. Go to my blog and search statute of limitations for your state, because you need to know that for contract law. This is what's going to be under contract law. If you see that it is not past, that it is past statute of limitations, you look at the charge off date, you look at your statute of limitations for your state. If it is past statute of limitations, you don't need to go into the other stuff that I'm going to talk about. You just need to simply write them a letter notifying them and the court that they're coming after you for a debt that is past statute of limitations. And you know what? I skipped a little part here. Let's go back. They buy the debt. They search to see if you can pay it, and then they'll send that letter in the mail. And then once you don't respond to that letter in the mail, they'll put the information on your credit reports, and then they'll do the summons. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. So you check statute of limitations, and then that'll be the point where you would start this whole validation process. So you get that letter in the mail. You check to see if it's past statute of limitation. If it is past statute of limitations, and you do that by looking at the charge-off date. If you don't have your charge-off date, you need to look on your credit reports, and you need to get a paid monitoring service, because the free ones don't always tell you that information. I have a link below, and the number 3scores.com. Get your credit reports. Look at that. It could be the easy way out of paying a debt. So once you know if it's past statute of limitations, then you just simply write them a letter. This is before it gets to a court summons. You write them a letter saying that it's past statute of limitations according to the laws in your state, and that you want them to cease collection activities on this particular debt. And if they don't, you'll notify the proper authorities in your state. And then you put CC, State Attorney General. They're not going to want to cross that line, because they could lose their license, because you're actually licensed to collect debt in state. So they don't want to mess that up. So they will stop. If they don't, then you report them. And you do need to send that certified also. Now, if it is past statute of limitations, you need to go into what I call a validation process. And if you're being served a summons, you might be doing this at the same time. If you're not being served a summons yet, you know that it's not past statute of limitations, you can start the validation process before they get it to a court summons, because it's going to take a little bit of time before they do that. So the validation process, and then I'm going to back up if you've been served. So the validation process, you want to prove the relationship between the debt collector and you. Did they buy the debt? Have they been assigned the debt from another debt collector? Are they contracted by the original creditor? Just because an account is charged off does not mean...
Returning visitor.
Oh, I apologize for that. Does not mean that the original creditor cannot collect on the debt. If it's charged off and sold, they cannot, but the debt collector might be able to if they prove everything in the validation. But a big common misconception is that if an original creditor charges off a debt, that they cannot collect on that debt later. Credit card companies and lenders have to charge off debt according to the law. According to the law, they have to charge off the debt to take it off the books of being an asset to their company. This is what the IRS requires them to do. So that's why. But they could still pursue the debt by contracting a debt collector to collect it, or they can sell it, take their money, what they got, and then the debt collector can go after you for the money. Now, so you want to have them identify the relationship between you and them. You want them to tell you that they buy it, assigned, or contracted. Next, you want to validate the debt. You want to get proof of the accounts. You want the account numbers. You want to make sure that they match. You want to double check again what it says on your credit reports. If they're telling you that they're collecting it for the original creditor, but it says that it's been sold, then if they try to take that to court, you can actually say that this is a lie, that they lied to the court if they put the original creditor's information on there as if they were suing you rather than the debt collection company. Do the balances match? Was this an account of your spouse where you had a divorce and then they were supposed to pay this account and you were supposed to pay another account? Those could be things that could just hang it up, because you could say that that spouse said that they did pay that account. But the courts might say you both signed for it, so you're going to be responsible. But this could be a way that you could be responsible for half of it, because what the judges said in divorce court could play into what you would have to pay as your portion of the debt. Was any part of it ID theft? You don't know that, but you have a right to look at all of the charges and to make sure that it was signed, especially if it was a credit card, get the signatures for all the charges. Or you could say, I would like to submit ID theft for any of the amounts that you cannot prove with my signature that I was at that location and made those charges. So you have a right to do that. Now, bagging up, if you've been served, so say for instance, which a lot of people do, you disregarded the letter that you got, you didn't respond to it, and now it came to where they served you a summons. You're going to have to go after this the same way, but you have to also answer the questions in the summons. The tricky part of it is that when you get the summons, it looks like they're making statements to you, but they're actually asking you questions. So they may say, John Doe lived at such and such address. And you're thinking, oh, they're just talking about my address. You have to say yes or no to that question. That is asking you a question, even though it's a statement. It's a statement to the court, but it's a question to you. So each one of those, it'll either be A, B, C, D, or E, F, G, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All of those questions you need to answer, and you flip those answers into your questions that you want answered. So we have the validation process. So if they say you owed $2,500 to this credit card company, you say, I do not remember owing $2,500 to this credit card company. You could say, you don't need to say that you never had an account with them, because if they prove that you had the account, then you can get caught in a bind. What you want to do is you want to say, first, you want to have you remember having an account with that company, but you don't know if this is the particular account. You want them to prove with the account numbers, make sure that they match, all of that stuff. So you just, as you answer their questions in the summons, you put in the validations to them. So you start saying, this balance here, I don't recall that amount. Please provide all of the charges that you're saying this $2,500 was with my signature, because they make you sign. They don't, they make you sign for these when you're doing credit card transaction, or if you're at a repair shop or something. Show me the signature. They must provide that. I know as a business owner, I've been asked several times where someone charged something with my company and then they claim that they didn't do it. First thing the credit card companies ask me for is either documentation showing a signature, address verification that it was delivered. So the same thing is required by them. You need to make them prove all of that information. It could either lower the amount of debt that you have to consider in a settlement process, or it could wipe this whole case away because they wasn't able to prove their case. The mindset you need to get into when you're getting hit with a summons is a solution-oriented mindset. Just because you owe the debt does not mean you have to pay the debt. They have to prove every aspect of it, and you just have to have a strategy at making them have to prove it, and also having the judge understand logically your question so they don't think you're just trying to get out of it. These are logical questions that if the judge was the one that was being sued, that the judge would also want these things to be answered for themselves. Don't just go up there saying I don't owe this and you don't have no strategy to come back with when they start trying to prove this debt. Now, if you don't show up, they're going to get a default judgment and you're going to, be in a whole nother situation. Now, if, let me take a quick drink here. So if they end up getting a judgment against you, then the next thing you need to do immediately is you need to ask if you could sit down with the plaintiff attorney, which would be the debt collection company, and see what you can work out. Some of the things that that personally happened to me when I saw the debt, and I think the individual mentioned this on there too, is that they want to take them to court and they're going to have a discovery, which is where they're going to reveal the accounts that they purchased. When they purchased these accounts, what happened in my case is that they had all the stacks of accounts that they purchased from the credit card company, and they blacked out portions, the names. Well, they blacked out everything except for my name and my account number, but it was just, put that way. And so what I had learned in that is that they had purchased all of that for pennies on the dollar. And also at that time, it was a statute of limitations. I wouldn't even have to pay that debt, but I had negotiated it. They were coming for $4,500. I ended up walking out the door with a $500 settlement on that. But they knew, the reason why is that they knew that there was problems with the case. I just was not at my education of dealing with this was not at the level that it is now. This was a long time ago, but this is how I actually learned this is from, an actual case that was against me. And so they're going to reveal that in court. And then that's when you start asking all of the information that I talked about in the video. So I hope that helps. I know that that'll help because this is real stuff. I'm not just someone that is just coming up with some stuff. This is stuff that we do for clients every day here. So I don't need to say, I'll take that back and say, I hope that helps. I know it will help. So now let's move into today's visualization technique for getting rid of bad credit thoughts. This stuff really excites me because what I'm learning even more on a daily basis when I look at my business, when I work with my employees, when I work on myself, because you got to work on yourself first, is that we gotta think more from the inside out. When you do that, you will start to see, feel, and understand and become more consciously aware that the things that are happening to us that are happening to us on the outside, that we let that affect us on the inside when it should be the reverse. If you find yourself hit with a summons and you start to have negative feelings, fear, worry, doubt, what are they going to do? All of that stuff is outward energy coming on the inside, which it should never happen. Immediately what you should do is you should get rid of the negative thoughts and you should start thinking from the inside solutions. That's how you fix problems like this. And I really appreciate the individual that asked the question on the YouTube, because what I could see from what he wrote was that he was thinking from inside out. Now, I don't know if he had worries and fears, stuff like that. That's natural, but I could tell by what he had wrote in the comments that this was someone that was focused on solutions. When you get fearful, go back to solutions. Think on the inside, solutions. Cross out fear, cross out doubt, cross out worry, cross out if you think that this is going to work. Don't worry about that. What most people start doing is they start thinking about, this is what's hitting me, and then they get worried. They don't do anything because they don't think it's going to work. That's because you're not moving from the inside. When you move from the inside and you say, I'm just going to do it, I feel good, I have no worries, I have no doubts, no matter what, some type of great outcome will come from that. You have to reverse your thinking. You have to not come from bad credit being on the inside of you, not where you don't allow those thoughts to come from the inside and it projects on the outside. Because you could have this situation here with a court summons coming at you, and you don't know what they know is wrong with the case. And if you don't try and you don't do things in a positive, with positivity coming out of you, with the thinking that good is going to happen, that this will work, I will have a great outcome, I will succeed with this. You don't know the problems with their case. You don't know that you're just a number with them. They may call you up and then the focus is on you, but you don't understand right now mentally that you are just a number to them. And soon as your number is called, as soon as a judge finishes with you, you're 100% out of their mind. So you should have the same process with them, except everything that you do should be positive minded. You should not worry about anything and think negative about them. They are just doing their job. They are doing their job. And I know that that's hard to understand, to allow yourself to do, but you should not feel negative about the attorneys that are coming after you for a debt collection. Now, you might be saying, Steve, that is easy for you to say. That's easy for you to say. Well, let me tell you, I think that out of everyone that's listening to me right now, I think that I had one of the biggest cases come after me. It's been some years ago, but one of the biggest ones that came after me from a judgment where I was not even in the state. It was a business that I was a part of, but I take full responsibility for the business failing, even though I was a part of that. And there were some debts with that business that were wiped over to me. And what ended up happening is that a judgment was filed against me in California. I don't live in California, I live in Wisconsin, but they did that on purpose. And then when they moved the judgment over here to Wisconsin, there was nothing that I was able to do. And partly because of that, because I did not do my due diligence to deal with that debt. I didn't do my due diligence because I got bad advice, but that's still my fault. I don't blame that on the attorneys. So years later, they ballooned that debt to over I think it was $110,000. And they, because I had personally signed for this debt, they came after me big time. And what they did is they looked at what I just talked about earlier in the video, where the strategy was to look at the assets that the person had, look at their financial situation. They could tell that I have a lot of money. They tell I have a lot of assets. I have an office building, 100% debt free. Don't owe nothing on it. All I do is pay the taxes, water bill, and electric. And they knew it, and they came after me, and they tried to seize the property. And I went down everything that I'm talking about on here. I went down, but I was stuck at a point to where I had to end up going into a settlement phase because I did not want to lose any of my assets. And I ended up settling that account for, sorry about my my phone here. Hold on. All right, my apologies. I put my phone on silent. Already early this morning, people start to text me and call. So I ended up settling that account 40. I think it was about $43,000, and I took that cashier's check straight to the debt collector. And I must admit that I did that on purpose. Like, I took it. I didn't mail it. They said, you can mail it if you do this. And I said, no, I'm going to take it and drop it off. And for some reason, the attorney, he made sure that he was not in the office that day. Like, he left his secretary there to take the cashier check. And but when I think back, I don't have any animosity. I released it. The day that I paid that money, I released it. And I've made hundreds, well, really, since then, millions of dollars since paying that. But I released it. And I think that if I would have released it even sooner than that, I would have been able to move forward during that period of time a lot faster. So I know how you're feeling. I know what you're going through. I've went through it myself. And so I know that if you end up doing full validations and it gets to the point of having to do a settlement, number one, the situation is not who you are. That's just something that you're going through. And you need to think positive. And part of positive thinking, part of thinking from within and having that reveal itself with your results on the outside, is coming up with solutions. And the solution may be that you have to come to a settlement with that particular debt collection company. That's part of moving forward. So I hope you appreciate this video. I'm really having a lot of fun helping you out with these videos and explaining solutions on what you can do, and really with the parts about visualization and the subconscious mind on how you need to be thinking, your self-value, your worth, all of that stuff. This is all important when it comes to dealing with debt. This is why we have all of these books and audios and MP3s and all these YouTube videos and stuff, people describing stuff, but you have some people that are succeeding and you have some people that are failing, and they're getting the same information. The reason why is because internally they're not in a positive-minded, solution-oriented mindset. That's the difference. And that's what makes my information different than other information that's being available out there. So if you need help, go to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. I have free information there. I have a blog there. I offer credit repair services. I can also help you with your debt. And if you need your credit reports and scores, there's a link below. Go to scores.com. Get your credit reports so you can know where you're at, so you can monitor your credit history. And then if you need our services, that links right up into our software to help you with the services. All right. Thanks a lot. And until next time.